You're listening to the Fighting Irish Faithful podcast, episode 19 of season 3 of 2022. Thank you for joining me this evening, whenever you're listening, making me part of your work week or your play date, whatever it is. No, don't let children listen to this. Come on. I'm drinking scotch and we cuss sometimes, and we are not PC at times. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I am at faithful_Irish on the Twitter, and we are titling this show High Hopes versus Syracuse. And as the song begins, we have high hopes going into the Syracuse game. So we're going to jump right to it. We can recap UNLV. We can talk about Syracuse. We can talk about the team in general. I've got a page of notes or two, but we want to hear from you, the listener, the audience. So we are going to invite Brandon to speak at Biff_13 if he so wishes to join and contribute this evening, Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. Brandon, are you there, sir? You've been invited to speak. If not, we will move on. If you just want to listen, that's cool too.
Sorry, my mic wasn't on.
That's all right. Twitter's been kind of weird the last couple of weeks. Brandon, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir. How you doing tonight?
Oh, we are doing good. It's a Tuesday Scotch night, podcast night. You know, the foliage is changing, unfortunately, to a Syracuse orange color in my neighborhood, but
What scotch are you drinking tonight?
we have a Chivas Regal.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Nothing too crazy. We left all the
Nice little sip on it.
expensive single malt Isla stuff in the back of the cupboard tonight.
Understandable.
Yeah, it's just Syracuse. So what do you?
Yeah, they're not any good.
What are they any good? You know, we're going to talk about that later in the show, unless you want to dive right into it now.
No, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, it's your show right now. You are the guest, so I mean, you know, I am never one to be quiet or mince words, or certainly never short on anything to discuss or talk about. So, hence why I talk into a microphone, and it certainly is better with having. I will say this: doing the live shows has made this podcast so much more fun. Before, it was just me in the room talking to myself, and it wasn't as interactive, and that's fine. And if that's what happens because people are just sick of this, you know, we can do that. You know, like I said, I'm not short on anything to say, but hearing from fans, interacting with fans, and getting kind of a different perspective, and I accept constructive criticism. And I appreciate other viewpoints.
I definitely think the live shows have helped a lot. It's nice to be able to interact with each other and just get the show going.
Yeah. So Tuesday night, going to the Syracuse game. How you feeling? It's a road game, right? So you got to feel better about that, right?
I was gonna say, so of course we're gonna do good. We're playing on the road.
I know. Like the last two games that were, well, I guess technically we've only had 2 true road games. Now, we won't talk about the team in Columbus because that was a loss. But, you know, that North Carolina game, everyone was like, oh, look at this high-powered offense, and the stats certainly proved it. We were favored only to win by 1 point. But this is the first time since the Ohio State game that Notre Dame is actually not favored to win.
They're not favored?
No.
I thought I saw it the other day.
No, right now, Syracuse, per teamrankings.com, Syracuse is a 3-point favorite. Notre Dame has a 41.3% chance likelihood of defeating Syracuse.
Gotcha. That makes sense, but for some reason I thought I had heard that Notre Dame was favored, but maybe I was just dreaming.
Yeah. Well, if it was any other year, I think that would be the case. But this year, Syracuse is a little different. They are 6-1. It's a home game for them, and they just got off a pretty tough loss to a decent Clemson team.
Yes. Yeah, they're definitely a good team. Their offense looks pretty good, and I don't know. Hopefully, I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Noon kickoff,
interesting.
those are always weird games.
Yeah, exactly. It's a noon game. Like, it's either I'm going to be very productive the rest of the day, or I am not productive at all because we're celebrating too much watching the game. Now we're having some friends over, so maybe this is not a good idea. And nothing against our friends coming over, but they have a little one too, which is about the same age as my guy, and so it'll be fun to see the children playing. But I remember, gosh, what year was it? There was one year, I think couple years ago, where Notre Dame. Oh, it was 2019. We had friends over during the Michigan game, and that was not good, right? Because we got ass spanked. That'll be
that was about the same time of year because I think I was having a Halloween party at that.
Oh my gosh!
During that game,
was it that time? I wasn't podcasting at that point. Oh my gosh!
Talking about the game in the rain at Michigan.
Yes, at Michigan.
Yeah. I was having a Halloween party that night, and my cousins live in Niles, Michigan, and they're Michigan fans, and I kept trying to change the channel or turn on some music, and they're like, "No, let's watch it."
No, let's watch the game.
God, leave.
Yeah. 2019, Notre Dame lost by 31 points, 45-14 at the Big House. So yeah, not very nice. So that'll be the Brian Kelly portion bashing of this show, where not his worst loss of all time, but minus 31 points when you're in year 9 of your tenure at Notre Dame. So take that, Brian Kelly, and never come back, I guess. But so wait, are you doing any Halloween costume parties for the Syracuse game?
Not for the game, but yes, my friend is throwing a party.
Is this the same friend?
Saturday night. Those were my cousins.
Oh, okay. I was like, we have to talk about who your friends are if you got Michigan friends.
No, I do not have Michigan friends. Unfortunately, they're my cousins.
It's really bad. I kind of joined a new team at work, and so they're hiring more people and like building the team up. And they hired this one guy, and he's very friendly, very nice, and very, reasonable and professional. But I think I found out like on day 2 or 3 of him joining the team that he's a Michigan grad. And so I already, in the back of my mind, like, I just see Michigan person. Now, he's never worn anything. He's not talking trash. I'm sure he knows that I'm a Notre Dame guy, so I can appreciate that. Or maybe he knows the truth, I don't know. But that is an unconfirmed rumor at work, so. That's the office gossip right there. Well, anyway, back to the Syracuse game, and we've got a bunch of people that jumped on. Irish Eyes joined on. Jason Yeager's joined us here. Jimmy's departed, but that's okay. He's on the West Coast, so maybe he'll jump back on when the children go to sleep. But Brandon, other than not repeating any blowouts here, do you feel good going to this game, or are you just like, man, we haven't seen enough of consistency with Notre Dame for me to really, be positive, other than wishful, hopeful thinking like the intro song?
No, I feel pretty good. We've obviously been playing better on the road, which is still weird to me. But I feel like with it being a noon game and them coming off a tough game against Clemson where they gave everything they had to try to beat them, I think we'll do pretty good. I'm not positive that we will win, but I think we'll definitely make it a good game.
Yeah, I'd be really shocked if Notre Dame got like blown out or something like that. The numbers and the stats, we'll touch on a few of them here tonight. Like in general, there's about 20 stats that I go through, and there's only about 5 of them where Notre Dame has an advantage over Syracuse. Now, fortunately, one of them, tackles for loss allowed, Notre Dame is doing very, very well. Right now, we average 3.7 tackles for loss against our opponent, which is good. And that's better than, and right now we're ranked 12th in the country. So national champions average 27th in the country on that particular metric. So that's the best thing Notre Dame has going for them. Unfortunately, if I rank them as most important to least important, that is number 16 on the list.
Of course.
Scoring margin, they're better. Total touchdowns, they're better. Passing touchdowns, scoring defense, yada, yada, yada. Syracuse is better than Notre Dame on paper, looking at the numbers this far into the season. So you read that and you're just like, well, I mean, there's a chance we can win, but I think that Syracuse has to play bad and Notre Dame has to play really well. Notre Dame has to play like they played at North Carolina and against BYU. Those are arguably our two best performances on the field.
Yeah.
So, well, Brandon, if there's not anything else, I'm not kicking you off. We're going to jump over to @NoSuck with no USC. Did I get that right? Yeah. Oh man, that was great. We're gonna jump over to him because he sent me a message earlier on Twitter this week. I think it was yesterday, saying that he had some information to share with the world. So.
Oh, all right. Let's hear it.
Yeah, we're building it up. It's gonna be epic. Maybe we'll find some epic music here. Brandon Fry @Biff_13. Thank you for joining the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And go Irish. Welcome anytime. All right. That was Brandon. Let's go to @NoSuck with no USC. You've been invited to speak, sir. Waiting for the epic dump here of information.
I'm not sure if I told you I had information.
You had something you had to get off your chest, though. Wasn't that it?
Oh, yes, that's what it was. I'm very frustrated with the offensive coaching staff and how they handled the quarterback room in the second half of UNLV.
Okay.
Now, I'm not, as I tweeted earlier this week, I'm not anti-Drew Pine. I think he's doing as well as he can with the cards he was dealt.
That makes sense.
However, this weekend I made my first trip to the house that Rockney built to watch a game live, or this year at least.
Sure.
And it seemed as though Pine could not go 2 possessions in a row without having a ball batted down at the line of scrimmage.
Mm.
And the game was won in the first half. ESPN's they have a win percentage calculator at each point in the game.
I know what you're talking about. The little graph in the lower left-hand corner.
Yes. There was not.
And as an engineer, I like that kind of stuff. So.
Yes, there was not a point. There was not a point after halftime where that was below 99%.
Yeah.
When Pine took that targeting shot that was not called targeting.
Yeah, exactly.
He should have not came back into the game at all. I know he cleared protocol and whatnot, and he's healthy. But number one, when you have that close of a call, you should probably be conservative for a little bit. Number two, there's no better time than on the rest of the schedule than that moment there to see what kind of player you actually have in Steve Angeli. You can't throw him in this weekend at the Loud House versus a ranked Syracuse as his first game action. You can't do it the week after versus Clemson.
You're saying that the UNLV game was the most underhanded pitch and talent inferiority per se, where giving Angeli some reps would have been the smart thing to do.
Correct, because best case scenario, we find out Angeli's a baller and he actually could make there be a QB controversy in South Bend. Worst case scenario, we find out he stinks and the fan base put him on the perch off of some blue and gold highlights versus our third and fourth stringers. And they can just get to prepping Angeli for next season as a backup again.
Right. Yeah,
But
I think that's a very
with-
valid point you make, because, and I remember in the post game show saying that, you know, when the non-targeting penalty, because it wasn't a penalty, when that hit happened, I was like, oh, here we go, we're gonna see Angeli, and we kind of saw him while the trainer was kind of like, you know, shining a flashlight in his eye, looking for, you know, some sort of concussion kind of thing. And then they end up just doing the tight end quarterback-ish sneak play, which I thought was a great play. I just thought it was stupid that they did that against a weak opponent like UNLV. You know, do that against a good team in a close game. But now everyone knows that, hey, that's a play Notre Dame could run. You know, so that you've totally taken the element of surprise away, which is kind of stupid. But that being said, or they're setting it up where they're going to do the same play, and he's going to like toss it, or they're going to run like a counter or an option. You know, this is just my sick mind that goes #RTDB when I see that kind of stuff. But regardless, back to your point about Angeli, I was like Twitter fingers ready for Angeli getting some real meaningful reps and snaps. And they don't do it. And it's like, well, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy that Drew Pine is not injured, that he's well, and, you know, concussions suck, right? But you're not wrong when you're like, look, what do you have to lose at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Or you only have more to gain. I mean, I guess Angeli, I mean, there's a reason why Angeli's not starting right now, obviously. But, you know, who knows? So,
correct. Pine has been doing fine, but I'll stand by my statement I put out on Twitter earlier in the season. Pine is a Band-Aid. Pine is like, remember when I think it was Wimbush got hurt in 20, I think that would have been 18 or 17, and then Book filled in for a couple of games. That's where Pine is at right now. He's not, I don't think he's ready to be as skilled as he needs to be a full season starter at Notre Dame. Maybe he will, maybe he won't get there eventually, but he is what I thought he was. He's a Band-Aid to the quarterback solution, and not a full-time like fix.
Right. Yeah, it kind of feels like you know, I really want nothing more than Drew Pine to just take the bull by the horns and own the starting quarterback role at Notre Dame.
100%.
And but we just don't see it based off of his outcome. And we've got a little quarterback comparison here for later in the show against Syracuse, which kind of makes your skin crawl a little bit when you read some of these numbers. But going back to this specific play when he was kind of shaken up, you know, that was with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Evans comes in with that tight end sneak play where he pretends to be quarterback right under center, which is pretty ballsy. And so Notre Dame's at 30-7 at this point with 4 minutes left in the half. And then UNLV fumbles on the ensuing possession. And then Notre Dame goes 8 plays, but then Pine throws a pick, right? So it's like, good grief. Like, I'm kind of surprised that, like, based off of 4 minutes left in the half, why Angeli just didn't finish out the second quarter. Like, I don't think anyone would have faulted Notre Dame, Coach Freeman, or any of these other coaches for put the backup in for the rest of the half, let Pine get some rest, you know, let the medical staff do their thing, make sure he's good to go for the third quarter. Oh, and by the way, we're up now by a large margin over a vastly inferior point. I think that's a very, very brilliant, viewpoint of the situation, because he's not going to it's not getting any easier, unless like Boston College, which we all hope, they just kind of roll over and suck, right? Because we don't like them. At least I don't. I'm going to speak for many other Irish fans. But then, like there's Navy, and like Navy's not, where they used to be, under the glory days of Ken Niumatalolo. Grant, he's still their coach, but they don't have, what's the guy?
Keenan Reynolds.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, they had a series of a couple of years where they had great quarterbacks for the midshipmen year after year, and Reynolds was one of those guys. That is not what Navy is. So, like, maybe Angeli would go in there, but Navy's scrappy and disciplined, and they put up a fight, and they don't quit. And hey, if you're, as patriotic Americans as we are, we're like, yeah, go servicemen and women. You know what I'm saying? So like that's cool, but yeah, no, I think that's a good point you make. The disappointment of coaching decisions, be it on the offensive side of the football or even defensive. We've had, Kevin Davis has shared some of his frustrations with the X's and O's of the defensive side with Al Golden. So, well, hey, dude, we are stacked on people tonight. A lot of people jumping on. Oh, and we just got another person that jumped on. So, last thoughts here, and then we're going to let the co-host chime in here.
All good. You guys can go ahead. Go Irish.
All right, go Irish. Thank you so much. That is at No Suck with No USC. And if you do not follow this gentleman on Twitter, you need to reprioritize who you're following. This guy every day on Twitter will post how many days it has been since USC has beaten the Fighting Irish. Now, unfortunately, Thanksgiving, we may not be so thankful about that, but hey, anything can happen. So, all right, thank you, sir. Go Irish. All right, Red Snapper, are you there?
I am.
What's up?
Good evening, you guys.
What's up, brother? Red Snapper 9098, my brother. Thank you back. Welcome back, co-host.
I was, it was good for me jumping on, listening to the talk, and I didn't understand why Angeli didn't get in and at least close out the half just to
close out the
give
game.
some downtime. Yeah, and it really kind of spoke volumes to me that okay, let's see what we got. I think there's a little bit more of a macro view that we're missing, but kind of something to feed off of what you two were talking about. And kind of goes along with what you're saying, looking for that leader, that intangible, like get on my shoulders and let's go. To me, I even go all the way back to the spring game that we were at, and Angeli just looked more composed. You saw him coaching up players on the sideline. He was engaged when, the other side was, on offense.
He just looked excited to be playing football, for crying out loud.
And you just saw the energy go through the rest of the team. And the converse of it was Pine was rattled. He didn't look consistent. He didn't have any arm strength.
He's really short, too.
We were very critical of the two, and both of us had the same takeaway with Angeli looked better between the two. And, this is dealing with, Buckler's injury.
Yeah, Buckner was hurt.
Buckner. Yep. So, it was, if it was down to these two based on what we saw at the spring game, it would have been Angeli. And again, it's the same thing. Okay, we can be, weekend quarterbacks and sit there and say that, this is what we saw and everything else, but we're not the coaches and we don't see them day in, day out. And, but we're going to sit there and say, well, why isn't, freshman talent playing, whether it's at the receiver or at the quarterback position? Again, are we seeing what they see on the day-to-day? And there's an element of faith we got to have with that. And, it's until we actually have Angeli get in it, get some serious reps and see how he leads the team, which that's the one thing I'm waiting from Pine is to show some emotion, show some like leadership, like get in people's faces or communicate, with people who are missing assignments. You should know your playbook backwards and forwards, not just what are my progressions, but what is everybody's job. You should know every receiver's routes. You should know every blocking scheme and the checks so that you can coach your team up, your offensive line that's charged with protecting your butt.
Well, and that's an interesting point. So number one, that last piece there, the offensive line specifically has looked 1,000 times better where they are today. Grant, we just played UNLV. But you just take the last 3-4 games, they've been fantastic. Versus the first 3 games, it's night and day. Starting in that North Carolina game. So and this I didn't mention in the last show, but I was reviewing the box score, just making sure I got all my stats, just keep the spreadsheets up to date. Do you know that UNLV had 0 sacks and 0 tackles for loss against Notre Dame? That's crazy. I haven't seen that. Like usually, they get 1 or 2. No, Pine was never sacked. And even more of a head scratcher of why we didn't see Angeli in this game. So, but then back to your other piece about Drew Pine and, him being a leader and whatnot. Some of the biggest problems we've seen is he's just staring down Mayer. He's missing other receivers that are either open or potentially open. And it seems that he's just keying in on our starting, star first round draft pick, kind of receiver, i.e. the tight end Mike Mayer, which is fine because he's fantastic. And we have a specific piece about Mayer later on here. But yeah, I mean, just I want him to be so much better than what he is now. And he needs to distribute the ball better, and we're just not seeing it.
Part of it to me also might be just the rotten residue of the entire team looking at the sideline for the play call to then look at the offense and line of scrimmage and get lined up and go with the last 10, 15 seconds of the play clock. When that time should be, we know the play, we broke the huddle, now let me read the defense and figure it out. And if I can't, if I notice something, then check out of it and get into a different call. I think we're doing a disservice by let's all stare at the sideline and now let's look at what we got.
Oh, I hate when they do that.
You're putting more pressure on him. And I think that's the other side of it is you're not taking the onus as quarterback of your offense to lead your team. He doesn't feel like it's his offense. He doesn't feel like it's his team because he's got to check in like he's, a teenager who got caught before curfew,
Well, and he's probably been coached to do that. Like, hey, when, coach whistles from the sideline or whatever, like, oh, we're going to change the play. You know what I mean? Like, which I don't like, my style is just pound it down their throat and just run the ball. And sometimes, like doing a check down and changing the play, based off of what coach is seeing, like it's fine to do that. I think every now and then, especially on like key downs, but it feels like it's over 50% of the time where they're doing that.
I'm going to tell you at high school level, we
never did that in my high school.
At practice, we had our main call and we had 3 things because we watched film enough to overanalyze ourselves so that if we were in something, if they got into this position defensively, we're calling this. And the entire offense knew it. We literally could go to the line, look at the defense, and you had receivers making calls to the quarterback if he didn't see it, and vice versa, because everybody was on the same page. When we had film breakdown our Thursday night before going into a Friday game, we were all checking on what are our checks. And every single receiver knew exactly what the quarterback was going to switch to. And it literally was, I'm touching a face mask to go number 1. I'm touching the top of my hat for number 2. And I'm wiping it off if I'm staying on the same play.
Right.
It was the easiest thing in the world. And how at the high school level, I'm sorry, they should know a lot more than what we knew. Now, granted, I've got a decent, alma mater that knows how to play football extremely well.
Very, very good high school.
But at the same time, that's still high school ball. The speed at college is much faster.
Well,
so
that
why
exactly.
aren't you giving them
So.
as much time to identify the defense and find that?
Yeah, it's perplexing, and this is the kind of time where we break into the Tommy Rees criticism portion of the show. Well, not really, but yeah, no, I think look, the offense has room to grow, and we're not there yet. This is still in the oven now. Whatever you were just cooking there in the microwave, Red Snapper, sounds like it was done.
Popcorn.
I was hoping that it was popcorn. It sounds really good right now. But your host is going to move on to someone else. We got someone new here. Let's see if we can get this person on here. At Irish Eyes 242. You've been invited to speak. You've been very patient waiting this evening. Irish Eyes 242. If you would like to join and contribute to the Fighting Irish Faithful show, this is a friendly place, despite the Scotch talk from earlier with Brandon. But if you just want to listen, that's cool too. While we're waiting for you to decide to come on here, there was some piece here. Oh, nope, I see you there. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Hit the pink button there. Irish Eyes.
I just listen. I'm not a big talker. I've just been a fan like my whole life, so it's interesting to hear people talk.
Fan of the podcast your whole life. Wow, I am honored to hear that.
That is awesome.
Wow, number one fan of the podcast. Buy some gear.
I'm sure I'm a little bit older than you are, so I've been an Irish fan my whole life. But you guys are pretty interesting. I do follow you, so.
Excellent. We have similar tastes in sports teams and potentially beverages. Who knows? Well, what do you feel of the team? Like, do you think that because if you've been a fan of Notre Dame for a while, so you have some expectations, or you've been tainted depending on how you want to go about looking at it. Where do we go with this team right now? Because we're sitting at 4-3. We do have a winning record, but we have a pretty tough game.
Like, I totally was agreeing with what you said about leaving Pine out to finish the half and letting the other kid play some. I mean, yeah, you have nowhere can that go wrong if you let that happen, because he does well or he doesn't, and you've got some answers on how the kid can play in a college football game. Because it's different. Like, practice is completely different than a practice game versus a real game, and it's all different. So I really think that they should have done that. I'm almost saying go with him anyway, because the season's screwed and Pine hasn't made gains, with where he's been. Like, it seems like he's not getting any better, almost getting worse. So, like, give him a chance. I don't know. That's my thought on that.
No, I think your opinion is shared by many. You expect progression, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's not doesn't seem to be growing, and then you see like the problems he's going to have, and as other teams get more film on him, they're just going to keep picking away at his faults, or his, I don't know, his shortcomings.
Yeah.
Wrong word there, right word there. I don't know. Not really meant to be punny, but.
Yeah, well, he is short. Yeah, he's shorter than me. Yeah. But I'm not trying to hold his height against him or anything like that. But
no, I mean, I understand it is what it is, and you look at Drew Brees. He wasn't that big, and he made a career out of it. Like, I'm not saying that's, but
at Purdue of all places.
Well, it went a little further than Purdue.
Which, by the way, while researching, I was looking at Syracuse's wins versus their opponents, and Syracuse played Purdue. Purdue has a better record than Notre Dame right now. Like, ugh. Let me go puke into a bucket here reading that. Good grief.
That's a waste of perfectly good scotch.
I said bucket, not my glass.
A lot more this season. Drank a lot more this season than I have in.
Hello. Well, and since you brought this up about Pine, I think it's an appropriate time to do the little quarterback comparison of what the Irish are facing. So Pine, obviously our quarterback. Syracuse, their quarterback, Garrett Schrader, not related to our cousins, Red Snapper. We'll just leave it there. Schrader has about 1,600 yards. Pine has 1,077. Schrader has a completion percentage of 69.7%. Pine 63%. Schrader averages 9 yards a pass. Pine 7.4. He's thrown 13 touchdowns. Pine 12. Now, the touchdown to interception ratio is better for Pine, which feels surprising, but that is what it is. But Schrader has a better rating, and ESPN kind of does their own rating, and I don't know how they do this, but it is a number. Schrader is 164 in his quarterback rating, and Pine is 148. So, crickets. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at here.
I just, like I said, I mean, I feel like the kid's got limited growth potential in his game. I'm really not trying to be punny. I'm really not. But I just don't feel like he's going to make huge gains. I think he's kind of limited. And so, I don't know.
Well, it's very apparent that
the season's kind of at a loss at this point. So,
that's an interesting point. So, right after the Marshall game, and I was at said game, and Jam, I see you there. We'll get to you as soon as we finish here with Irish Eyes. So thank you for holding on, Jam. I was at that Marshall game, and I had to drive 3 hours home from South Bend back to Indianapolis. And if anyone's been on that road, US 31, right, there's not a whole lot going on. You're waiting for Large Marge to jump out in front of you kind of situation, or a deer if you're lucky. Knock on wood, that hasn't happened to me yet. Regardless, and if anyone hasn't heard the Marshall postgame show, epic show, huge numbers, check it out. I changed my entire expectations about this season right after that game, and I was very upset. And then after some reflection on Sunday, maybe Mass had something to do with that, who knows, it was probably Top Gun 2 actually. I had a tweet, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, but it's change everything you know about this team and change all your expectations, and just embrace what we are here and now. And that's kind of where I am at right now. We've got a first-year head coach who's never been a head coach before. The quarterback room is a little barren. The receiver room is, we're waiting for productivity to happen. I'm trying to be positive with running the football. Notre Dame is running the football pretty decently and at a decent clip this season. So I'm happy about that when we rush the ball 59% of the time every game, right? So that's good. And so I don't want to say that the season is screwed or we're screwed or it's in the trash can, because I mean, I love Notre Dame football, and I look forward to this every year, and I'm kind of getting sad that, that we're 7 games in and we only have 5 left of this regular season, and Lord willing, we become bowl eligible, and hopefully Notre Dame does the right thing and goes to a bowl game, and I want a 13th game. I don't care if it's the Boca Raton Bowl or the Las Vegas Bowl. I mean, that sucks. And as Notre Dame fans, but look, let's leave our egos at the door and just say, this is our team. So I don't disagree with you, Irish Eyes, when you're saying that, this is where we are, and, we want football glory and stuff. But statistically, first-year head coaches, when they're successful at a program, and by successful, I mean win titles, on average, they only win 8 games a year. And within the standard deviation of 2, plus or minus 2, a 6-6 record for the regular season is not unheard of statistically. So, and that's what we talk about this show: Scotch, spreadsheets, statistics, and all that stuff. So, all right. So at Irish Eyes 24-2, if you want to say anything else, that's cool. If not, thank you for joining us this evening, and go Irish. Well, that was nice, getting a new person on. Let's go to a very loyal member of the Fighting Irish Faithful show, Jam at JAMEKO 703. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good connection.
Yes, loud and clear, and your voice is way deeper than mine. So
Beautiful.
I feel short like Drew Pine when you speak.
I hear you. One of the things that, you both mentioned was talking about progression. The thing that I'd put forth is,
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Red Snapper, did we lose him?
I think we did, actually.
I actually got an Amber Alert, so I don't know if that's the first time
no.
for your podcast or not.
No, well, we didn't hear it, which is maybe we should
got
alert
interrupted
it.
by an Amber Alert on the phone.
Mm.
No, but we haven't seen a quarterback progress at Notre Dame in 12 years.
Oh, I thought you were going to make an Amber Alert joke about our quarterback.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's inappropriate. I apologize.
I'm not that witty tonight.
I'm going to go mute myself now.
But we haven't seen a quarterback progress, the entire Kelly era and now Reese. And then the one thing I am liking is, Coach Freeman has talked about having to be line dependent. And we've heard, previously we're going to commit to the run, but we've never seen that occur over the last 12 years. I really do see a commitment to the running game. It's frustrating in the sense that we commit to the running game until we get inside the 10-yard line, and then we try to be cute.
Thank you. I agree.
Why can't we just go under center when we're within the 5-yard line? Do what fucking makes sense.
Some of these East-West plays, I mean, you could time them.
Hey, who had over under a 41 minutes for the first F-bomb by me on this show?
That's right. But the East-West plays take so long to develop, and I like Pine. I think people, treat him like he's a Reese. The kid was a 4-star. He was highly recruited.
He was
coming out.
Yes, he was
coming out of high school.
Connecticut. Yep.
Yeah, he was. I think 150, 200 ranked higher than Ian Book. I'll disagree a little bit about the Angeli. You're not talking about a kid who's played 10, 12 games. Like, he needs every snap he can get right now, and different scenarios and things like that. So I don't necessarily agree that, sticking with Angeli there. But the one thing that I mentioned it 2 weeks ago, there's some chemistry issues on this team.
You're not wrong about that.
And, Mayer made a subtle comment about it during his post-game interview in Vegas. And I just don't think it's a united team. What the root of that is, I'm not sure, but that plays a big difference. And the other thing that happened in the offseason, and it's kind of been glossed over, is, Dr. Selking leaving, who was the mental health, performance. And I think a person like that provides a safety net, if you will.
Was that the
players.
Woman on the sideline that was always behind Kelly?
Yeah, she was the mental performance.
I only noticed that the last 2 seasons. I was like, who is this lady? Every time Kelly's on the thing, there's this shadow, this lady behind him, and then it took me a while to figure out that she was a counselor or something to that effect. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, and she was, I guess, instrumental, in the time period when he left, being a stabling source for those folks.
Yeah,
but ultimately, she's.
I mean, there's something to be said about sports psychologists, right, and their ability to, help people stay mentally fresh, right? And especially if you're a quarterback or, gosh, I mean, I don't want to say I feel sorry for Tommy Reese, but there's been a lot of flack out there, that he's been facing, and, it takes some, strong will to basically not allow that negativity to impact your day to day. We all know he's trying. And we just have high expectations that we want him to do better. And granted, he's being paid handsomely to coach football, right? But we're crazy fans, and we're gonna scream like petulant children until we get our way, right? But at the same time, I don't want to be cruel and unkind to, an alum of the university, a former player, now a coach. Now, does he need to stay? That's a conversation we'll have, maybe later in the season, after the bowl game kind of thing. But for now, it's look, unless something really bad is happening, which it's not, and I'm reserving, like, I know people want, sexy, flashy play action and passing and deep passing and stuff like that, but I just don't think we have that in the cupboard right now this season. And is that Reese's fault? Maybe. I don't know. But I will say this, my preference and a sustainable model of winning football historically has always been running the football. And when we are running the football 59% of the time, and we still can't really figure out who our starting running back is, I would put Estime in there just from a productivity standpoint. He has 6 rushing touchdowns, which is more than, tied with Sean Tucker over at Syracuse. But Estime, gets a touchdown every 13 touches, whereas Sean Tucker for Syracuse, he gets a touchdown every 21 and a half touches. So
how many fumbles does Tucker have?
I didn't look at the turnover piece there.
That's a big liability.
If you give me a minute, I can look that up. But
you've got to hold on to the ball.
Well, and no doubt. Now, one of them for Estime has been, I think, one wasn't quote unquote his fault. I mean, I guess maybe he didn't have 2 hands on the ball when the Stanford dude put his hat on the. But there were so many other like structural flaws with Notre Dame in that Stanford game. So anyone who says like, oh, the Estime fumble is the reason why we lost, I think they need to go piss in a cup and walk down to HR if they say that kind of bull crap. And I was saying,
I heard Reggie Brooks observe, he opined that he's carrying the ball too low, which I thought was just interesting observation from a running back.
Yeah.
But was
that Reggie Brooks?
Yes.
The one who got knocked out while passing out against Michigan.
Held on to the ball.
Yeah, good grief. Like, even he's literally passing out, and it takes him to like black out while falling into the end zone for him to finally like let go of the ball. But at that point,
after scoring though,
after scoring,
touchdown was good. But the other piece though, when you get into that, the mental performance, it provides a confidant for the players. Like, these football coaches aren't soft and cuddly. Like, it's a suck it up mode. And
I hope they're not cuddly.
But I'm saying helping kids navigate and process things. And that's how, and the more important thing is they can sniff things out that coaches may not be aware of and bring it to coaches' attention. It's just an observation when you look at the chemistry and look at some of the dynamics that have changed from last year. I think those are 2 that I think have, not been talked about or discussed.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to look at, I've gone to my 2 primary sources for looking up individual player stats, and I am not seeing Estime or any fumbles basically by running back. So if someone is savvy in the wing here, wants to compare the fumbles and turnovers by Sean Tucker of Syracuse versus Estime of Notre Dame, please enlighten us and share that information. I'm the first to admit when I don't know something, and this is something I don't know.
Hats off to Mason on the special teams. Best special teams we've had in 25 years.
Jeez, the toast is to him. I agree.
Yeah, no. And as many holes as the defense has, what was it, 16, 21, 26 points, those are games you sign up for winning, like, especially against the opponents that they were against. You tell us Ohio State, hold them to 21 points.
Yeah.
Like, and there's some flaws, but the defense has held their water, especially considering how much they've been on the field with the absence of productivity from the offense.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys as always.
Well, Jam, I had a question for you. So you have a defensive background, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's correct.
So
yes,
there's something that has been troubling me ever since the last show we did, or maybe it was like Twitter during the game or leading up to the podcast. I don't remember exactly. And the discussion specifically around J.D. Bertrand and our linebacking play. There are so on paper right now, our defense as a whole is pretty decent. It's not great, it's not elite, but it's okay. Now, in your opinion, and I know Kevin Davis has chimed in on this, are the linebackers just totally out to lunch, or do you think it's a scheme problem, or do you think it's deeper where just Bertrand just doesn't have the chops?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that Bertrand's athleticism or lack of doesn't allow him to be out of position, if that makes sense. Where I think, our younger linebackers can make a misstep and catch up. And you look at the two halves that he was out, have been our two best halves of defense this year. But I don't necessarily think it's scheme as much as Bertrand not necessarily always playing assignment football. And I'd be interested. I missed what Kevin opined, and I value and respect his opinion. But that's a little bit of the thought there.
I think he was saying something that on the defensive side, it's more of the coaches and their scheme, what Al Golden is calling out. One thing
something I saw in this last game, and I forget which. It was one of the big runs, but the DB went to catch the guy. You can't catch a guy. You have to attack, and he got just, arm tackle and everything. Like, we're playing catch in the secondary when you have to attack the running back coming right at you. That's one observation I've made. I've seen from a fundamental standpoint that these guys are playing on their heels too much.
Yeah, it's like they're waiting for the ball to come to them rather than them go
attacking it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or as we like to say, impose your will.
That's right. Run through him and not to him.
Run through him. Yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting, because I wanted to explore more about J.D. Bertrand, and like defense is I don't want to say complicated, but like it's not sexy on the stats. It's like, like quarterback, it's like you got QBR, touchdowns, touchdown interception ratio, yards, right? Like there's all these like statistical things you can do. But like if you're a defensive player, the only real like stat you can really talk about is tackles or total tackles.
And then you
maybe
can have
sacks.
A defensive lineman who impacts a game more than anybody on the defense who doesn't show up on the stat sheet.
Absolutely. No, exactly. He's just a snow shovel down there, and he's just,
takes two blockers,
being disruptive. Yep,
yeah.
Exactly. And then that frees up his buddy to go in there and do it. Exactly. Like I remember, I didn't play defense, but I remember very vividly our defensive line coach yelling at our tackles, basically saying to get your ass down. And your job is to disrupt the offensive line and to allow the linebackers. If you make the play, that's great, but chances are that's not what you're being coached to do. And that was hard.
Wreak havoc and let the linebackers roam free.
Yeah, that was hard for our guards and nose tackles and those guys up front. So, but then once they embraced it, they loved it.
The kid from Harvard, he's having a nice season, and it's doing exactly what you're talking about. He's playing assignment football.
Yeah,
his name's been called once or twice, but he's plugging up the middle. He's doing a nice job.
Yeah. So I wanted to look at the only stat really we could look at, which was total tackles, and right now Bertrand is leading the team. He has 43 tackles, and he's averaging 6.1 tackles per game. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a lot, and it's like, wow, that's good. Now, and so right now he's on track to finish the season with 79 total tackles at that same, average pace. if that carried out for the rest of the season. And I'm throwing a bowl game in there at the same time. Now, last year, do you know who our leading tackler was?
Kid from Florida.
No. It was
Boston?
Nope. It was Bertrand.
Really?
Last year, Bertrand led the team in total tackles again. Well, this year is the again piece. But he had 102 tackles last season and averaged 7.8 per game. Now, what I want to point out is over the last 10, 11 years, there's only 5 guys that have averaged more tackles per game on average than J.D. Bertrand. And this is them in descending order. Number 1, do you guys know who number 1 on the list is? I'll give you a hint. It's the same guy in 2 years, back to back.
I would say Manti Te'o.
Nope, not Manti.
Well, what's the time period?
Well, 2018, 2017, to be more of a hint. It's Tavon Coney. Tavon Coney averaged 9.5 tackles per game in 2018. He had 123 total tackles. And in 2017, he also led the team with 116 tackles, averaging 8.9 a game. Now, in same song, different verse, there's another guy, and you guys should be able to get this, who in 2015 and 2014 led the team in tackles, was a linebacker.
Joe Schmidt.
Oh, I wish it was Joe Schmidt, but it's not. He's probably second on those lists. It was Jalen Smith.
Oh, wow.
Jalen Smith averaged 8.8 and 8.5 tackles per game in 2015, 2014.
But he wasn't disruptive.
No, but I'm just going with what the stat sheet says, right?
Saying.
And Jalen Smith, he's just so athletic, and he probably could have played running back too for Notre Dame. But this is a shame he got injured in the bowl game against Ohio State. But and then last on the list, we went all the way to 2012, of course, to talk about Manti Te'o. Manti averaged 8.7 tackles per game. He had 113 on the season. So Bertrand is not as good, quote unquote, as those guys, right? And those 3 gentlemen are, the elite of the elites over the last 10 years, right? Now it's interesting though, if I look at J.D. Bertrand just for this season, and then we'll move on to more sexy things, not defense, but there's only one guy who led the team in tackles, but had less tackles as a whole than J.D. Bertrand, and averaged less per game. And that was in 2020. Now, granted, that's the COVID year, but still, on average, per game, it shouldn't matter. Do you know who that person is from 2020?
A-OK?
No, it's Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton led the team in tackles with 63, and he averaged 5.7 tackles per game, which is worse than what J.D. Bertrand is doing now. So no one is ever going to say that Kyle Hamilton sucks, right? Because he's playing for, Baltimore right now, and he's being disruptive there, that's for sure, on the football field.
The thing that's telling about that, though, is
he's a safety.
That's indicative of poor defense.
You know what? And that's an interesting point you make. Kyle Hamilton is the only safety on this entire list. Everyone else, anyone from J.O.K. to Drew White, Tavon Coney, Niles Morgan, Jalen Smith, even Dan Fox from 2013, everyone else was a linebacker. And Kyle Hamilton is the only one in 2020.
And that's a big, he was a human eraser. And,
yeah.
He could clean up mistakes that are made in front of him. We don't have that right now.
Yeah. So on aggregate, if we compare Bertrand to, Tavon Coney and Jalen Smith and Manti Te'o, sure, right, he's underperforming. But it's like, look who you're comparing him to, right? And and all we can really compare him to is to his current teammates. And right now on the stat sheet, he is doing better than all of them. So I would like to politely dismiss any claims that J.D. Bertrand, quote unquote, sucks. I literally am reading this shit on Twitter, and those people, quite frankly, are just rude and ignorant of data and facts and information.
In that order.
Well, Jam, I appreciate you for jumping on and sharing your insights.
I always love the show. It's the best podcast on the net.
Woo! So, have I told you about the Etsy store where Christmas is coming and you need a white elephant? Fighting Irish Faithful show does have an Etsy store. This is the only time I try to only plug it once per show. If Justin,
I'm afraid it would be taken by the administration if I wore it on campus for some sort of copyright.
I have worn this.
I'm kidding.
I'm actually wearing Fighting Irish Faithful t-shirt. In full disclosure, I just wanted to do it myself and just promote my podcast when I walk around, right?
You're modern day Joe Frederick.
But yes, the Etsy store, we have t-shirts, hoodies. We even have baby clothes. So Baby Irish Faithful has something. We've got koozies now and pint glasses. So, get your Fighting Irish Faithful gear if you so wish, or if you need a white elephant, or Justin. It's probably a little late for Halloween, but Justin Cates was saying you could get some and hand them out to trick-or-treaters. So
they'd be coming back twice.
They'd probably get your house egged if you did that. All right, at Jamico703 on the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And go Irish.
Yes, sir.
All right. Loyal contributor and former.
I just love his voice. It's just the deep resonance. It's such a class act.
And he doesn't have the highs and the lows. It's like it's just consistently just a voice of authority when he's talks.
And it avoids the monotone. He never falls into a monotone. Like, he's got enough, tonation variance that it's a pleasure to listen to.
Yeah, like you can tell when he's being sarcastic and joking around, and when he's serious, and it's always more impressive than my voice. So that's why we like bringing other people on. If you have a nicer sounding voice, that's a one-way ticket to get on here. Oh, Jam wants back. Yes, sir. Unmute. He just requested speaker again.
You guys are making me blush.
Awkward. Okay. Thank you, Jim. Let's jump over to Jason Yeager, who's been patiently waiting for a while. JB, I see you. Adam Dowling, Hunter, I see you guys. Hang on. We'll get to you as soon as we can. We are, how far are we into this show right now? We are over an hour in. We're trying to give people about 5-10 minutes here, and then we'll jump on. So, but it's Tuesday night. Some of us have to go to work, but that's fine. Jason, are you there?
Yes. How are you?
Oh, we're great. The Scotch glass is getting lower, but that's okay.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. What do you think of the Syracuse game? Are you nervous? Are we screwed?
I don't know.
Have you thrown in the towel like Irish Eyes 242?
No, I haven't thrown in the towel as much as.
And I'm paraphrasing. She didn't say throw in the towel. But.
Right. What to think anymore. It depends on who shows up.
What Notre Dame team is this going to be?
Yeah, and I do think, though, being on the road helps a lot. You've got the camaraderie. You're always together. You're not everywhere else, and the only thing you can think about is football and nothing else. But it just depends on who shows up this week. I agree with what everybody said with Angeli. Well, most everybody said about Angeli at least getting some snaps in. The week before I said I'd like to see a lot of the younger guys in there a little bit more than we did, for sure. Merriweather, and being able to just kind of see where they're at and just repetition, getting the reps, because if one injury away from them playing.
Yeah.
And when else are you going to get to do that?
Well, and especially with the next 2 games, tough opponents, Syracuse, Clemson, and then kind of got a little break there with the next 2 games, but then USC is looking really scary still at the end of the season. They it isn't going to get easier, and throwing Angeli in a game against say Clemson or USC, God forbid, that okay, get your rosaries out at that point.
Yeah, 100%. So I really am just waiting to see who shows up, and that's about it. I don't have too much to say about Syracuse other than they're going to be a completely different Syracuse, and we've pretty much seen in a very, very long time. And
yes,
they should have beaten Clemson too. So
correct.
Yeah, I definitely get some Donovan McNabb vibes coming from this squad from Syracuse.
Yes.
That's an interesting
about all
point you make, with Syracuse, and, this is a different Syracuse team, their head coach, Babers, he's been there now 7 years. This is one of the best seasons he's had. I think currently on paper, if we don't include this season, their 2018 season was really good, and that looked kind of like a scary game, and then Notre Dame just beat the crap out of them, and that was the Shamrock Series game at Yankee Stadium. And so that was actually Syracuse's best season under him. Jason, do you know the last time that Notre Dame lost to Syracuse?
I don't. It hasn't been that long ago, has it?
It kind of depends
Kelly
on
years.
It was not in the Kelly years. I will say that.
Okay. Then I'm not sure.
It was the previous administration. It was under Weiss, and that was in 2008.
Adrian Dantley's son was the quarterback for Syracuse.
Yes, Notre Dame lost at home last game of the season on senior night to Syracuse in 2008. It was cold, and I was there.
I was there. Yeah, it was called the 80s. Ford was president, Nixon was in the White House, and FDR was running this country into the ground.
I know Red Snapper gets that reference there.
Love it.
But yes,
had to go.
Stumpy had to go. So I was there, and that was a miserable game. Notre Dame should have beat the crap out of them, and we didn't. Like, our quarterback was Clausen. We had Golden Tate on the team. Like, there was no reason for Notre Dame to lose. I think Armando Allen was our running back. So, and believe it or not, that was actually the game that Manti Te'o made his recruiting trip to Notre Dame in the flippin' cold, a terrible loss at home. And of course the students were pissed, and there was snow. And so people were chucking snowballs on the field, and Te'o got hit with a snowball by a stupid student, and he's still committed to Notre Dame. So figure that shit out. So, if I think Notre Dame was lucky that day that Te'o still decided to come to Notre Dame, because all the stars aligned that some dude from Hawaii is like, I am not going to pick this fucking place, dealing with that kind of shit, losing to Syracuse at home, snow, like, forget about it. So, but yes, that was the last time Notre Dame lost to Syracuse. And since then, though, we've been unbeaten. But this year we've got there's some concern. I will put that. So, well, Jason, if there's nothing else, we're gonna jump on. We got a couple other people here.
All good. Go Irish.
All right, go Irish. All right, let's go over to JB at Irish for Cards. You've been invited to speak. If you so wish to join us, I think you've been waiting a little longer. I saw you jump on, jump off. JB, go ahead and hit the pink button to unmute yourself. Welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful Show.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, you there? Sound like you're underwater. You on Bluetooth?
Speaker.
Speakerphone? Irish for Cards, you there? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Hit the pink button. Well, while he's figuring out his audio technical issues there, there's something I wanted to mention. So we've titled this show "High Hopes" going into Syracuse, and we'll break down some of the scary stats here of Syracuse. But something that I wanted to mention here was looking at something that caught my eye. Red Snapper, is this a truth or a lie? Who has the better rating in Sagarin, Notre Dame or Syracuse today?
I would say Syracuse.
Okay. Well, and you are incorrect. Notre Dame is ranked higher in Sagarin than Syracuse. They are ranked 22nd of all things. Syracuse is ranked 33rd. Now, the strength of schedule, and this is kind of where I'm going with this. Strength of schedule, Notre Dame, Sagarin ranks us as 37th, Syracuse 55. And so I wanted to deep dive into that more. And so what I did is I compared Notre Dame's opponents and their opponents' win-loss, which of course includes Notre Dame, versus Syracuse's opponents' win-loss. So Notre Dame, of course, has played Ohio State, Marshall, Cal, North Carolina, BYU, Stanford, and UNLV. All of our opponents, including the game they played Notre Dame, to date, they have an overall win-loss of 31 wins, 20 losses. For our opponents having a win percentage as a group of 60.8%. Now, Syracuse, they have played Louisville, UConn, Purdue, Virginia, Wagner. Don't know where the hell they are, but apparently their mascot is the Seahawks, which I learned tonight. That's a stat trivia to impress chicks. Who are the Wagner's mascot? The Seahawks.
And can you tell me where they are?
I have no fucking idea.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the follow-up question. Like, oh, wow, okay. So Wagner, NC State, and then Clemson. Syracuse's opponents have a win-loss record of 29 wins, 23 losses, for a win percentage of 55.8. So their opponent's win percentage is worse than Notre Dame's. And the only opponent we will have in common with them so far this season, now I didn't look at down the road, but Clemson, that's the only opponent that Syracuse has played that Notre Dame will play to date. I didn't look at down the road at their next four games after that. So I thought that was interesting how Syracuse, though on paper and a lot of these stats, is certainly better than Notre Dame. But there is hope and optimism for Irish fans. And I'm not trying to give false hope. Again, we are trying to be very analytical and numbers-based. And if you look at who Syracuse has played, yes, they have only one loss, and they have all these other wins. They have 6 wins. But Wagner, I've never heard of them. Okay, UConn, give me a break. Okay, they have a 3-5 record. Virginia is 3-4, right? So they have multiple losing teams they're played. Now, granted, Notre Dame lost to Marshall and a crappy Stanford team, but Stanford and Cal are actually the 2 worst teams that Notre Dame has played. Marshall actually has a winning record now. UNLV is actually 500. So I'm trying to sprinkle some pixie dust on this, but there is hope for Notre Dame against Syracuse, just based off of the level of talent and the strength of their schedule versus Notre Dame's. Well, JB, I see you're back on. You're invited to speak. Welcome back. Irish for Cards.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
thanks for having me back.
much
Appreciate
better.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a phone call that came in and interrupted the feed there. So,
Okay.
Timing impeccable.
That's okay. I'm actually shocked. That has not happened to me, knock on wood, on all of these live shows. No one has ever tried calling me. So
yeah, it happens. It happens. It's what happens when you're doing something live, right?
well, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about any of this the stat breakdown we've talked about
Yeah,
tonight?
a little bit there. First of all, Wagner's FCS school on Staten Island. So there you go.
Staten Island.
So yeah,
Staten Island Seahawks. Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things that was mentioned earlier by Jam about the sports psychology, I found interesting because last week the University of Notre Dame actually posted that job.
Oh, did you apply?
I did not. I have a degree in psychology, but did not apply. No.
Oh, right on. Okay.
I don't have my.
That was just a random guess, but okay.
Yeah, I've got a master's degree in psychology.
Well,
But
shit. What's the worst they're gonna say? No. What's the best that can happen?
They probably saw my antics at the Stanford game and said no, thank you.
They don't pay attention to that. they don't even discourage the wave, right? So give me a break.
Of course.
And if you want to get the rant going on that, we need to analyze the psychology of our fucking student.
The show's always long enough already.
I won't go into all that, but I will say that when I was at the Stanford game, our section was loud and rowdy.
That's good.
And none of the ushers said a damn thing to us, so it was a wonderful night.
That's good.
But I did see.
Hold on. What section? So we know for tickets.
Yeah, we need to write this down exactly. What are the good sections in Notre Dame Stadium?
Yeah, we were actually in one of the corners in the lower bowl.
Yes.
So
opposite of the students.
Actually, opposite of the students.
Okay, that was kind of where we were for the Cal game, and our section was pretty decent. So.
Yeah, we were lower bowl about 20 rows up. So
okay.
Right behind all the Stanford parents, which was an interesting night.
Okay.
I was hoping to actually be going to the Syracuse game this weekend, but my buddy actually is a season ticket holder there in Syracuse, and I was supposed to fly up for the game this weekend, but can't happen. My daughter actually just got a starring role in a off-Broadway show. So
there you go.
Congrats.
Yeah. So
you'll be the Twitter shout out of the night.
Yeah. So it looks like Dad is going to be on going to the play this weekend, so we'll see how that goes.
Supporting the
dad
arts.
duties engaged.
Yeah. I actually have to beat. I think her call time is like 1:00. So I'll probably be dropping.
So you can watch
her
the first quarter. Is what I just.
I'll probably watch most of the show doesn't start till 3:30, so I can actually get most of the game in on my phone. So we'll see how it goes.
Can you slip a flask in your pants or?
Yeah, that's easy. Bourbon's always ready.
You know what's interesting? So anyone who's heard one of our old shows, my wife, the doc, her family is. They know football and stuff, but they're not. I would not label her family as a sports family. They're kind of more into the arts. And my sister-in-law, she does, professional ballet actually. But anyway.
Oh, wow.
There is constant wine, beer, and spirits before the shows. And now this was before COVID. But then, you could tell the bartender during intermission, have a 7 and 7 ready for me, and they would do it.
That's awesome.
So the arts people, they know.
Oh yeah, they do, for sure.
They know.
high class tailgating right there.
That's exactly.
it's
Yeah, they're just wearing a shirt and tie. Exactly.
exactly. They're
Not a
getting
quarter
it.
zip.
They're getting it done in a different way. So you can if you're getting a 7-7, you can get the same thing at a tailgate as well as seeing Swan Lake. So why not, right?
Yeah, that's right. Wait. So back to this Syracuse game. So you're
Yeah.
not going. You're
I am
doing
not going.
other responsibilities.
It's supposed to be my third game this year, but we're going to put that on hold for a year. And my buddy who lives in Syracuse, we're going to meet next year in South Bend for a game. So
very good. All right.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in about 5 years, so we're going to get together next year for that.
Nice.
But as far as the game this weekend, I love the noon kickoff. I love that for me personally, but also I think the guys too. I think getting away from South Bend has obviously been helpful for the team this year. So hopefully we see some of that happen in the Dome on Saturday. So
there's almost like the sense that you don't have the expectation like building all day, right?
Oh yeah, like that. The atmosphere on campus all day for the Stanford game was just really weird. It was just, it was almost like, we're here, we're having a good time, but it was like nobody was talking about the game at all.
Right.
And then you get to the game and it was like, oh crap, this is
deflating.
This is terrible. Yeah, this is terrible. It's like, what do we do? And yeah, I mean, it was just, and you've been there all day, so and you have not. And
you're a little
something
tired
negative,
at this point.
You're a little tired after the drinks and everything, and once you, you're hanging with everybody in a parking lot, and you get in there, and nothing happens. Obviously it's deflating, and I think the guys on the field feel that too. When it's just like and the pressure keeps building in a game like that. So,
sure.
Hopefully, getting on the road, we can come out on the other end of this one. I really believe that, it's a good matchup for the guys. I don't think it's something that's unwinnable, and I think it's one of those games that we can go in and and get a W.
Yeah, I think there is the opportunity for that. Anything can happen. I'm not the numbers are not kind to Notre Dame as far as the productivity that Syracuse has put up. But I will say that there are opportunities that if Notre Dame plays well and sticks to their strengths and shows toughness on the road against a team that's potentially and let's not kid ourselves. Syracuse lost and they let up mucho points in the fourth quarter to allow Clemson to win at home. And so good on Clemson, but bad on Syracuse. And so to have that kind of, letdown if you're Syracuse and then return home, I think that a lot of the eyes are going to be more on Syracuse.
I think the pressure's on them.
I agree. And are they going to bounce back from, a disappointing loss that they had the lead by double digits and then they let Clemson come back? Are they mentally cooked and now they're going to let Notre Dame come into their house, or do they have, does Syracuse believe in themselves to defeat Notre Dame, a big program like Notre Dame? We don't know, but that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure is on Syracuse and them being able to bounce back and perform and make things happen because they're a program that hasn't put up the numbers. And we know that. I mean, it's a program that's not been in the limelight, been somewhere where people are talking about them for quite a while. So obviously they're feeling the pressure, and I do think that this Syracuse team is very talented. I think they're much more talented team than what they've put forth in the last probably decade, to be honest. But I really feel like our boys at Notre Dame can put on a great performance on Saturday. I really believe it's possible, and hopefully I'm right. And I think all honestly we need is just our quarterback to make a few plays. Just a couple more plays,
Yeah.
That pass, that pass, alone to coming out of the backfield with our running back wide open, and you can't hit him. Those are simple plays that he just has to make, and he made those throws in other games. But obviously, last weekend he didn't make them against Stanford. So just a couple more plays. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, quick question.
Sure.
We're on the road. We typically wear the whites on the road.
Yes.
Do they bring back the Shamrock Series whites, or do they go with their boring whites?
I don't know, but did you see that white on white look that one of our recruits was wearing over the weekend?
I did not see this.
Oh yes, the running back out of Kansas.
Okay.
I can't remember his name. Yeah, he actually was wearing a white on white that was our normal white jerseys with white pants.
There you go.
And it was sharp.
Yeah.
So it does exist. It's in the catalog. It's there.
Nice.
But it was a pretty fresh look.
My high school, our aways were white on white, and they looked sick.
Yeah,
I liked them better than our homes.
Mine was as well in high school.
Yeah.
So we were white on white.
I'm a fan of the white on white.
I think it would look sharp. But I think just making a couple extra plays and hopefully being away from home and the pressure will lead them to have better success. And if we can, the Syracuse game has a lot to do with how the rest of the season is going to play out.
I think that's true. I think if we beat Syracuse, that's a huge confidence going into Clemson and even SC. The loss at Syracuse, I think the Clemson USC games seem very unlikely at that point.
Sure.
And then, now we're like, gosh, can we just get, BC and Navy taken care of so we're bowl eligible, right?
Right.
So I'm not saying that this is but this could be an inflection point for this team.
I think so.
Mathematically, there's a possibility, though slight, that Notre Dame runs the table. I can't believe I'm saying that, but mathematically, that is technically allowed. Is it probable? Probably not. But again, let's see what happens, and if they hire Irish for Cards as their sports psychologist person, and he now has, field level field pass for eternity, with a sweet paycheck probably, and he probably won't be wearing a lot of Fighting Irish Faithful gear on the on the field if that's the case, but he'll get some.
Yeah, probably not.
Shit.
But Irish for Cards did order a koozie and a pint glass. So
all
there you go.
There we go. Well, thank you, Irish for Cards.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We're gonna jump on to another person here, Hunter Heitzley, if he wishes to join us.
Go Cards.
That's okay.
And go Irish.
Are they in the playoffs?
No, they're not, unfortunately.
Yeah, neither are the Dodgers. They screwed the pooch on that one. So,
yeah, pretty much all the favorites and did the same. So yeah, we all fell apart.
That's okay. At
Thanks,
Irish
guys.
for Cards on the Twitter. Thanks for joining the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Go Irish. Well, we've invited Hunter Heitzley to join us and probably close us out for the night. We're getting late here. It's past 11. We're about an hour and a half into the show. At Hunter Heitzley, if you wish to join the podcast, by all means, jump on.
I think just the temperament I have going into this game is kind of a wait and see. It like I think it was Jason Yeager who said, we'll see what team shows up, which players show up. I think, can we just play fundamental ball, and can we do it for 4 quarters? I think that's the expectation I have. You're a couple weeks ago, you're up and down, pie chart or graph chart rather. It kind of cracked me up.
Yeah, it's a heart
and
rate.
Then it's the complete inverse of last week, where it was like boom, shot out of the gun, and then all of a sudden, what happened?
Yeah, we traded positions there on that one.
Yeah, so I just want to see consistency. I want to see us start strong. I want us to have a good, solid defense. I mean, honestly, I would love to see them shut a team out for the entire half, make adjustments, come out, and limit them to maximum of 3 points. That'd be amazing. Now, can we do that with Syracuse? I doubt it. But let's really focus on what we need to do to play fundamental ball for the full 4 quarters. That's
Yeah.
what I want. Those are my expectations.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all with that approach. Well, there's one other thing we wanted to, and it was a question for Hunter Heisley if he jumps on. But if not, it's fine. We'll just carry on. We're podcasting here.
You can open up to Jam and Jaeger, who are still listening.
People are still jumping on and listening. So prior to review and it was a drop by Mayer. He did not get 16 touchdowns for his career in this last game against UNLV. He has 15 total, and he is tied with Ken McAfee, who played with Joe Montana. So that's how long that record has stuck around. Now, I did some digging here, and kind of the overall question here is, who is the best tight end that's ever played for Notre Dame? And that's kind of a high-level question, and Mayer is really good. Now, if we look at total receptions by touchdown, or by these 3 guys, and so I'm comparing Mayer to McAfee to Dave Casper. Now, anyone who knows anything about the NFL, or if you're a Raiders fan, Dave Casper is amazing and a legend. But Casper only had 21 receptions as a tight end when he played for Coach Barsegian. Now, granted, the game was a lot different then, but 21 receptions versus Mayer right now is 157. Now, Mayer is leading them in yards. He has 1,816. McAfee had 1,759 yards. But here's the difference. Mayer has been targeted almost 30 times more than McAfee did. And McAfee played 43 games. Mayer so far has played 31. And if we throw another, 6 games on there, he's still not going to even come close to McAfee here. So on average yards per catch, McAfee edges out Mayer. McAfee averaged 13.7 yards per catch, whereas Mayer had 11.6. However, neither of them is better than Dave Casper. Casper averaged 16 yards per catch. Now, touchdowns, Mayer had 15, McAfee had 15, Casper only had 4. But get this, receptions per touchdown. So how many receptions per every time you have a touchdown? Mayer is worse out of the 3 of these guys. He has 10.5 receptions per touchdown. McAfee was 8.5 receptions per touchdown. Dave Casper, 5.3 receptions per touchdown. Extremely efficient. So if we want to just look at like the overall macro numbers, most likely Mayer will be the leader as far as aggregate total touchdowns, total yards, and total receptions. But if we get into the efficiency, the yards per catch and the receptions per touchdown, no one will ever beat Dave Casper.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's thinking accuracy or efficiency, especially in the way today's game is. It's what have you done for me lately mentality, and
but
the fact he's getting the ball, 7 to 10 touches a game on reception. That's what we expect from our star, and he really is. He's our star.
Oh yeah, he is. He is the best player, most productive player on the offense, right?
And you got to remember who's throwing it to him the last couple of years.
Right. Well,
when you're talking
go ahead.
yards per reception, and touchdown ratio. One, Joe Montana's year was still running the ball a lot, and you're not getting as many receptions, period, as many throws out, period, compared to what you would now. But I think you got to look at who's throwing the ball too. You're going to have a lot of different types of plays there.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting point, and I didn't put this, but I did a quick calculation here. Receptions per game. Mayer is averaging 5.1. McAfee was 3. Casper was like less than 1. 0.7. So it just shows kind of like you can kind of like see like how passing has kind of taken over more, passing to the tight end, which has kind of become the security blanket, right? Ever since, Carlson and Fasano and those guys, came back up.
Rudolph, absolutely.
Rudolph was in there too. Eifert, right? So,
yeah.
Tight end you, baby. Tight end you. And apparently now our tight ends go under center and take snaps and run the ball. So that's a fun wrinkle.
I'm still waiting for an all tight end, just skill position. Everybody lines up as a tight end.
Well, don't you remember when Tommy Trumbull would get the ball or be a lead blocker? Man, that was fantastic, right?
Who, by the way, got a touchdown this past Sunday.
There you go.
For Carolina.
And Cole Kmet got a touchdown this week too, didn't he?
I believe he did, yeah.
I'll take your guys' word for it, as I don't usually partake in NFL watching. I'm doing other stuff.
Fantasy football. That's the main reason.
I'm with you. 100%. I'm with you there. Well, ND Fanatics just jumped on at Fanatics ND. If you want to jump on, by all means, you've been invited to speak. Help close us out. If not, no big deal. We'll end with some scary Syracuse stats, ND Fanatics. So we've mentioned some of these other things about Syracuse and how they're on the up and up for where they've been kind of in recent years. Last year they were 5-7. We talked about Sagarin and their strength of schedule and how there's a hint that Notre Dame, may have an advantage based off of the quality of Notre Dame's opponents and their opponent's record. But back to the efficiency thing, because that's what I like to do here. Yards per point, rushing attempts per touchdown, and passing attempts per touchdown, all in Syracuse's favor. They averaged 12.2 yards per point, rushing attempts per touchdown of 20, and passing attempts per touchdown of 14. All of those are edging out over Notre Dame. Wendy Fanatics, I see you there. Welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful Show. You're going to close us out tonight.
So tonight is one of those nights where I don't have any stats in front of me, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. How do you feel about the Syracuse game?
But they were highly ranked, very similar to now.
His microphone.
We might have another fade in and out. Yeah.
His microphone may be going in and out. It might be his internet connection or something. Maybe it's the Yamaha mixer I'm using. It's not. Well, ND Fanatics, if you get your mic, why don't you reboot or something there? I don't know. We'll talk some more about scary stats, and if you jump back on, we'll give you some time. But it's getting late here, and it's past 11 here. It's past my bedtime. Scoring margin, it's not good, guys. Syracuse is defeating their opponents by 18 points. Notre Dame right now, if we just subtract our scoring offense by our scoring defense, we get a number of 4.7. So it's not as impressive. They've scored 29 touchdowns to our 23. Passing touchdowns, one more than Notre Dame, right? Okay, so that's not too crazy. Here's the really scary stats. Up to this game, Notre Dame, on average, typically has been better than their opponent in the defensive side of the ball. Scoring defense, total defense, rushing defense, right? Those top three defensive stats are not owned by Notre Dame this week. Scoring defense, Syracuse is better than the national champion average, guys. They're sixth in the country in scoring defense. Granted, they played mighty Wagner. But the numbers are what they are. They have a scoring defense of 15.1 versus Notre Dame's 21.9. Total defense, 13th in the country versus Notre Dame's 30th in the country. Rushing defense, it's not crazy better, but they are limiting their opponents to 123 rushing yards versus Notre Dame's 139. So, just those three defensive stats alone are of concern. Now, here's the real scary piece, and we kind of alluded to this in the last show. Notre Dame turns the ball over way too much. We are 118th in the country. It is our worst stat by far. Second worst is actually passing yards, but we won't go there. We're -7 on the season in turnover margin. Syracuse is +6. That's a 13 turnover swing to Syracuse's advantage. They are ranked 16th in the country. National champions on average rank 20th in the country in this stat alone. Syracuse has 5 stats today on paper that is better than the national champion average over the last 10 years. So when you read those things and you look at the efficiency of their team versus ours, it kind of freaks you out. And then you're kind of like, yep, Notre Dame with a winning percentage likelihood of 41% does not seem crazy. And that's the scary cold shower of the Syracuse pregame show.
Well, and it's going to come down to how solid our defense is. How long do we stick to the run? Are we ahead of the chains? Or are we, trying to convert long third downs again? And are we going to get cute, or are we going to literally scheme people open? Are we going to read progressions and not just stare down Mayer? Are we going to play disciplined defense and set an edge, to quote, Kevin Davis? Like, we need to play fundamental football.
Yeah. I think if we are mentally tough and assignment sound, and we just play with some energy and just get some leadership out there, I think Notre Dame's chances of winning this game are there. I think from an adversity standpoint, I think Notre Dame is going through a lot more of that. Look at it this way: Syracuse has a coach who's in year 8 or year 7 of his time with the team. Notre Dame's not. There's been a lot more upheaval per se with our program than theirs, and will that defeat us, or will we use that to our advantage? I don't know.
Can you guys hear me now?
Welcome back.
There we go.
Loud and clear now.
All right. Yeah, sorry about that. AirPods versus speakerphone.
Okay.
So I did have a chance to pull some stats, so I'm going to pull this one. So we probably saw that Jaden Thomas is starting on the depth chart for this coming game. I didn't look at the UNLV one. Was he also starting in the UNLV, or is this his first start? Does anyone know? No?
I'm glad you brought that up. So my confidant told me, because he, I won't say with whom, and it was not Notre Dame, I don't think. That's something the NCAA requests, and so Notre Dame releases their depth chart silly early, and that's to comply with some NCAA thing. So how much accuracy per se is in that, I don't know. Now it would be interesting to compare what you're reading to us now, so I'm not going to say you're wrong, but it would be interesting to compare what you're seeing there to who's on the field for Notre Dame's first possession on offense.
Yeah, so with Jaden Thomas right now, and this is a very small sample size. He's only played since the Marshall game. Played Marshall, North Carolina, BYU, Stanford, UNLV. The most receptions he's got in one game is 3. But every time he's gotten more than 2 receptions, so he got 2 receptions in 2 games, 3 in 1, Notre Dame has won all those games. 2 receptions, average yards 12 against UNC. He had 24 total yards. BYU, 3 catches, 24.7 average, 74 yards. We know what happened there. UNLV, 2 catches, 40 yards, 20-yard average. They got to get him the ball. And then this is kind of weird too. Stanford, 1 catch, 8 yards. Marshall, 1 catch, 8 yards. Please don't have 1 catch for 8 yards against Syracuse.
What if he has 2 catches for 8 yards?
I'd say that would be even worse. That's an aggregate of 4 yards a catch. Right. But I mean, it's along the same lines, and we all think alike. It's like, what I was trying to say earlier, my AirPods cut out. Pete Sampson got in a back and forth with a couple people about young players and how he was saying, well, if you just start young players over, more seasoned seniors, fresh or juniors, you can lose the locker room. And in the same breath, he was saying if they're the most talented, they get on the field. But it was like he was speaking out of both sides of his mouth in the way I interpreted it. And for a team that's 4-3 and doesn't have college football aspirations, and at Notre Dame that's the standard, I just don't see why you're not getting guys more playing time unless you really want that redshirt year for, let's say, a quarterback or whatnot. But skill position players, like, more reps the better. Like, that is my personal take. I'm curious what you guys think.
I have no issues with playing younger players, and no issues with if you've got to play the best athlete that's going to help your team win.
And that's what it is right there, is you're not going to lose the locker room if you win ball games. If Merriweather comes in and balls out and has, a game of 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, you're telling me that any of the seniors are going to be pissed off because he just balled out? No, because they're going to win, and they're going to continue to win. And do you want your starting position to be supplanted? No, but at some point you got to realize he's better than me.
This is a team environment, right? It's a team.
Exactly. And we all win when the team wins. And if you're going to take it to an isolationist individual, standpoint, then you're a selfish son of a gun that shouldn't be there. And are you really a Notre Dame son playing for the blue and gold?
That's right.
Yeah, and it was wild to me because one of his other points was, well, the mission is to get your seniors into a bowl game. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, the mission ultimately is to win games and to develop.
No one gives a shit about the Pinstripe Bowl, okay?
Yes, thank you. Exactly.
No one gives a shit about that.
Case, and if that was the case that if everyone was concerned about, and the grand ultimate goal was the bowl game, then why did Kyron Williams and Hamilton sit out last year?
Exactly.
So, no, you can take that and shove it.
Yeah,
Which is really irritating because both of them were captains last year.
This is a conversation Pete Sampson had today with a couple of fans. So you'll be able to go check and see it. But
I think I did stumble across this, yeah.
Because, again, it was like bowl game seniors, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is why, this mentality... No. I mean, Georgia started had 4 freshman wide receivers on their starting depth chart for the first game of the season. Like, this whole senior, I'm just like, man, come on, dude. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's some good points you make. We appreciate your statistical breakdown, and so it sounds like the keystone here is get Jaden Thomas a couple catches here, right? So,
and he has to average over 8 yards.
Over 8 plus 8.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Not 4.
Not 4. Greater than 8 on average. All right, that's good. Well, just in case jumped on, we're going to jump over him real quick because he's been a loyal supporter and he's been like the unofficial spokesman of the Etsy store. Justin Cates, if you're there from Arizona, please unmute yourself and welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful show.
How you guys doing?
Hey, we're wrapping things up and we were about to shut it down, but I saw you jump on, so you're welcome.
Yeah. I just thought I was going to catch it. I was watching Indian in the Cupboard with my son, so we were having a little bit of a
great book and great movie.
That was a good movie.
I know the movies, and the movie held up. They could probably redo that movie, by the way. Probably do pretty well.
Yeah, excellent.
What
do you think of the Syracuse game?
Talking about, I just like to support you. So.
Oh well, thank you. We're talking about Notre Dame football and the Syracuse game specifically.
Are we talking about merch?
We had, I think, someone got some merch here, so I'll have to check my email there for that and make sure all that gets sorted. But yes, we talked a lot about stats. We talked about Bertrand and kind of putting his productivity in perspective. We talked about Mayer and kind of his overall numbers are good, but on average, they're not better than, say, the Ken McAfees and the Dave Caspers of the world. But we kind of concluded that the game has kind of evolved. We talked about Syracuse's strength of schedule, their playmakers. We talked a little bit about Pine and how he's short. And I think we can all conclude that Irish Eyes 242 likes tall men. So...
and she's really punny.
She was, yeah. She emphasized that a couple of times that she was not trying to make a pun, but I feel like that's some reverse psychology.
Well, no, honestly, I think she just naturally is punny, and that's what made it even better.
It just flows. But so Justin, that's the Cliff Notes version of what we discussed tonight. But I want to get your opinion here. Syracuse, I can ask you straightforward, bold questions, or, we can kind of water down things. Well, how do you think the team's going to do versus Syracuse?
You know what? I think that they'll probably do okay. I feel like this is a game where you ever play a tingle play if you're gambling, you sort of have a tingle. I sort of feel like I'm tingling that I think they'll probably do pretty well against Syracuse just because they'll be able to stop a little bit of their run. I mean, they're going to go fast. I really like Dino Babers, actually.
I think he's a decent coach. And for where their talent is, if we look at the last 4 years on 24/7 Sports, last 4 years, they averaged 60.3. And
yikes.
It's just not good, right? The best it's been the last 4 years was 56, so he's, I think, right now with where Syracuse is in the ACC as far as, their ranking in their conference. I think they're playing above the rim right now. And I
was going to say, I feel like he's
been a coach for a long
get.
time. Not so much at the head coach position, but he's been an assistant or a grad assistant ever since the 80s. So he's
a big Notre Dame guy too, by the way. He's an Irish fan.
Okay.
So he's always pumped up the Irish. He's always pumped up how good they were when they played, I don't know. I just think we'll probably beat Syracuse. I'm not, playing it's at the Carrier Dome, right? Or are we playing at some third, some neutral stadium?
They are playing in Syracuse. They don't call it the Carrier Dome anymore. It's some special New York mobile network arena now. But yeah, they're playing in the Dome. So
I think they're going to win at New York Network Mobile Arena. I think they're probably going to do pretty well. I don't know. I just feel like this is a spot they can step up. I think that they're going to – I don't know. I just feel like this is – I have no real reason to except for I feel like they can sort of build off last week. I mean, I don't think it was a great win. I think they could have done better, but I think they can keep moving forward. I really like what I heard you guys talking about as far as let's get these young kids on the field. Let's. I don't know if it's a Reese thing or a, or a Chansey thing, but get Merriweather on the field. Get these young guys on the field. We don't. I heard sort of what you guys are saying, and I agree. No one needs to get their feelings hurt because they got beat out for a position, especially a Salerno. God bless walk-ons. I was one at one time, but there's some talent, but they're never going to be able to show out if they're not given the opportunity.
I'm with you.
And I don't know what the difference between a Holden Stays, and one of these other freshman receivers. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's mind-boggling, as my friend used to always say. I just don't know, man. But I think they'll do well. I think the offensive line will be able to control the line of scrimmage. We're going to have to play more of a keep-away game, which we're fairly good at. So,
yeah, I think
time of possession, absolutely.
I think if Notre Dame can win up front, and Coach Freeman has kind of emphasized this, that he's trying to have good O-line and D-line, and those, what did we say earlier? What's the best stat Notre Dame has going for them is tackles for loss. So that's good. And our offensive line has been getting better every week. Rushing is the strength of this team. We look at, on average, the efficiency of Estime versus Sean Tucker. He's more efficient now. Maybe he's fumbled the ball here and there, but maybe Diggs is going to get the starting nod again. We don't know. But regardless, there is opportunity for Notre Dame to win. There is hope that Notre Dame can win, and I appreciate your positivity going into the Syracuse game. I honestly do not know what to expect from Notre Dame. Are we going to get the team that we saw against Stanford? Are we going to get the team we saw that punched Ohio State in the mouth in the first half, hung with them, and that same team that went to North Carolina's house and pistol whipped them, right? And just totally just took it away from them. I do think Syracuse is a better team than North Carolina. And right now, Dino Babers is having a better. I think there's more upside for him, whereas Mac Brown's kind of on the decline of his career in general. But yeah, I think there is opportunity. Realistically, I don't know what to expect though.
Did you guys listen at all to Tommy Reese's press conference today?
No, I do. I refuse to listen to coaching press conferences.
Yeah, you're not going to get much. I'm just wondering. I mean, he's got an excuse for everything, and I'll take it on my broad shoulders. Like he said a couple weeks ago, like, I'll take it on me if people want to blame me. It's like, damn well everyone is blaming you because it's your fault.
Something I thought of this morning when I was driving home from the gym is Notre Dame does need to key in on quarterbacks. And, as much as I like running the football, I always want to take a perspective look at where the program is going and where college football is and where college football is going. And we're seeing more and more emphasis on quarterbacks. Defense still has to be there. You still have to run the ball. And don't be surprised if we see Garrett Schrader trying when they're down in the red zone and he runs the ball in. He has 6 rushing touchdowns, tied with the same number of rushing touchdowns as their starting running back Sean Tucker. Both of them had 6 touchdowns.
I think it was 5 Foot Nothing Pod last week said, "Hey, I'm calling it right now. We might be seeing a Syracuse quarterback run all over us."
Yeah. That's where we're at.
Bertrand knocks him out by targeting him. Maybe he can make himself effective and just knock someone out of the game, and then it's like a win-win. Bertrand and his short arms leave, and
He's got huge guns, man. Like the gun show is on when Bertrand's out there, man. That guy's it's impressive. Well, Justin, we're gonna slow down, wind down here. Last thoughts? Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, nothing huge. Go buy your merch. Whether you're covering, if you're painting and you need to cover your furniture, or you need some rags to clean something, or you want to wear them. It doesn't matter. Just buy the merch. Support these guys.
Yes. If you get a glass, don't put it in the dishwasher. You'll be sad if you do that.
Yeah, don't put that glass in the dish. Hand wash it.
Hand
Give it
wash
to your
only.
husband to wash it.
You gotta have some love. Come on.
Yeah, hand wash.
Well, a hand wash. Give it a little bit of a handy,
All right.
I guess I can leave on that and a go Irish, and let's just hope we see the offensive line dominate and go Irish.
I like it. Offensive line dominating. Ending on a positive note. At Justin Cates on the Twitter. Thank you so much. And go Irish. Red Snapper, final thoughts here as we wind down.
Final thoughts. I'm going to say a couple Hail Marys before this one that everyone kind of just bonds together, and I want to see the chemistry. I want to see those intangibles, and really I want to see Pine be the leader that we all want him to be. And, let's just have some good fundamental 4-quarter football.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, there's some opportunity there for Notre Dame to really rise up. And, I don't want to say I don't want to. I respect people's opinions, and people certainly on social media are entitled to their own opinion. I just don't want to see our fan base up in arms again. And it's going to happen. There's always going to be the glasses half empty people, and that's fine. But I really want success for this team, for Marcus Freeman, for these players. They're going to go on the road, and Notre Dame tends to do well on the road. So.
And the best remedy for all things that ail you is win, baby.
Yep. Just win, baby. This is the Fighting Irish Faithful Show, Season 3 of Episode 19, Volume 71, Notre Dame's High Hopes versus Syracuse. Go Irish, beat the annoying Orange.
Throws the ball, it is caught, Reggie Brooks! Reggie Brooks got it for a two-pointer, and Notre Dame is out in front, 17-16. Lost the ball, the pass is batted down! It's batted down by Carroll!
It's caught by Samaja, inside the 20, inside the 10, he's going in! Notre Dame has scored! Dawson throws, open receiver in the end zone, touchdown! Notre Dame! Somehow, the Irish did it!
Out of the pack, 30, 35, goodbye, baby! At the 50, the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10, bye-bye, rocket touchdown, Irish!
Tyree! Whoa! Can he get there? Tyree at the 30, 20, 10, touchdown, Notre Dame! Woo! 98! Big ones! Zibikowski looking for a block. Cuts to the right to the 40. Gets a block. Gets to the 45, 50. Up to the 45, 40, 30. 1 man to beat. 20, 15, 10. He's down to the 5. Touchdown, Irish.